guys. It's Danita from Platt Family and
Michael.
He's making a cameo. They just got back from youth group at the Corn Maze. How was it?
Fun and my legs hurt.
Fun and your legs hurt. Okay.
We rolled down the hill.
You had a good time?
Mm-hmm.
Good, I'm glad. So, here we are at the end of midterm week with our homeschool situation. We had an awesome midterm week. Yes, situation. We had an awesome midterm week. It was awesome. It was very, very good. This was our first midterm number 1, and we done good. So, let me first say that we are Charlotte Mason 100%. And I know that there's a lot of people who are doing Charlotte Mason along with other things and that work to their family, and that's awesome. And I'm not taking anything away from that at all. I promise. We are Charlotte Mason whole hog. Charlotte Mason is, and we try. I say we try because I'm still learning. I'm reading her books. I'm listening to a Delectable Education podcast. I also am part of the Facebook group Charlotte Mason Soiree, which is very, very helpful. So we try our best to follow Charlotte Mason as close as we can. As close as we can. So when it came down to midterms, it was kind of like, you know, my husband taught middle school. I taught high school and middle school. We really kind of struggled with what do midterms look like in a homeschool setting. You know, it's that desire to like make up a test and like, you know, multiple choice, and Charlotte Mason really discourages and does not promote the idea of having kids come to the answer you want them to come to. It is really about living ideas and children making connections. She calls it the science of relations. So, yeah, we are Charlotte Mason whole hog. So, I do want to backpedal a little bit and say I didn't make a video last week because it was my birthday. I turned 40. Go me. And it was awesome. My husband did such a good job. Thank you, darling. He did such a good job of my birthday. We went to the bay. We ate Maryland blue crabs by the water with friends. It was beautiful weather. It was awesome. It was awesome. So that's why I didn't have a video for last week. But I'm back this week and I'm excited about, you know, being 40 and what this year's going to hold. So, fast forwarding. Our midterm week, we took the entire week to work on midterm projects. Our midterm projects, we did 4 different midterm projects. So first was a written narration. Second was an oral narration. Third was a dictation. And fourth was an art project. We did these based on this idea of the science of relations. So Charlotte Mason has 20 principles. I'm not going to go through all 20 principles right now, but if you'd like to look at them, Ambleside Online, I will link it in the box below. It's my first time ever saying that. I will link it in the box below. Ambleside, AMBLESIDE Online has a ton of Charlotte Mason. It's all Charlotte Mason. Ambleside Online, and they have a free curriculum and everything, but they have a PDF with her 20 principles. I'm going to just go over the principles that surrounded and mapped out and honed out our midterm project. So, the first principle of her 20 principles, quickly, is that children are born persons. That means the children are born not as blank slates or embryonic oysters who have the potential to become persons. They are, in fact, persons. In 2017, as a believer, as a kingdom citizen, I would say that children are born already preloaded with everything they need to complete their God-given destiny. The children are born in the image and likeness of God, and that He has already given them what they need. So, the second thing is that children, they are not born either good or bad, but with the possibility for good and bad. Therefore, the principle of authority, this is principle number 3, the principles of authority on the one hand and of obedience on the other hand are natural, necessary, and fundamental, right? So that we can guide them towards good choices and good character. But these principles are limited These principles are limited due to the personality of the child. We must not encroach upon, whether by direct use of fear or love, suggestion or influence, or by undue play upon any one natural desire. We must not manipulate our children. They are made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, just like we shouldn't manipulate anyone else, and we don't want to be manipulated, we should not manipulate our kids, right? So, Genesis 1:27 says that God has given us dominion over the earth, over the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, and over every creeping thing, but He does not give us dominion over one another. That's what that means. We should not dominate or manipulate or try to control in that overbearing kind of way. We should guide, right? So we are limited due to this, not encroaching upon the personality of our kids. We are limited to 3 educational instruments. This is what Charlotte Mason says. Those instruments are the atmosphere environment, the discipline of habit, and the presentation. Hold on, is that right? Yes, and the presentation of living ideas. So education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life. Education is an atmosphere simply means that we educate our children in the atmosphere that they're in. We don't try to fabricate an atmosphere to educate them in. We educate them right in the atmosphere that they live in. Education is a discipline, means that we work to give our children good habits. So these are, she calls it laying down the rails. That if you lay down the rails of good habits, then just like you put a train car on top of rails, that train car is going to follow those rails in whatever direction they've been laid. So we don't have to employ the effort of decision with every little thing if we have developed good habits. That's what that means, that education is a discipline. Education is a life means that we have to give the mind, that the mind should feed on ideas, not on pre-digested stuff. So that's why we don't use textbooks in the Charlotte Mason method, because textbooks many times have been pre-digested. We want to, since the mind feeds on ideas, therefore children should have a generous curriculum. That's also why we cover so much. So fast forwarding to number 12. Education is the science of relations. That is, that a child has natural relations with a vast number of things and thoughts, so we train him upon a vast and generous, physical education, handicrafts, math, science, geography, history, Bible, spelling, reading language arts. We, different kinds of foreign languages. We educate them on all of these different things. We give them it's called a feast. We lay out the feast, right? But no, there is no such thing as an education that is not a self-education. So it's not our job to chew up that food for them, metabolize it, and then give it to them already digested. It's our job to be a maitre d' and lay out the feast. It is their job to educate themselves. We provide the feast. So the science of relations is how children learn. That it allows us to make valid those first-born affinities. That's that preloaded stuff that's already in them. It allows us to make valid the first-born affinities that fit our new existence to existing things. So that's connecting. So you ever heard your kids say, they learn something and then later they're like, oh, because this goes to that. Oh, so what you meant was like when we talked about. That's the science of relations. So that's what I was looking for. That's what we were looking for. So I printed out for them this is Michael's, all of our subjects. Scripture, memory, picture, poetry, composer, math, science, nature study, foreign language, Bible, history, geography, arts, spelling, family reading, handicrafts, book of centuries, book of mottos, discovering doctrines, typing, independent reading language arts. So that's our spelling stuff. All of that. And then I asked them, do you see any relation? Like, as we talked about this, do you see it connecting anywhere? And they just sat down and said, I did. I was thinking about this and what about that? Oh, well, when such and such happened over here, oh, there was this thing over there. And I think, man, so then I just asked them to draw lines, connecting them, and then to decide which of the 4 projects they were going to fit these connections into. So they did their written narration where they connected this to that. So for instance, Michael, he was talking about constellations. He learned about Orion's belt, which he had already seen, because we had talked about constellations just in life. And he talked about how, in his math book, they talked about constellations and Orion's belt. That in Adam and his kin, it talks about how the stars were used to help figure out where they were in the world while they were on the ark. In Latin, we are learning the word nauta, which is sailor, and how sailors back in the day used the stars to help navigate. Then he connected that to Africa and the possibility that the Garden of Eden was in Africa, because the Bible says that the Tigris River and the Euphrates ran through the Garden of Eden. So there were all these connections. So that was the point of it, is connecting all of these pieces together. What does that mean to you? Because you're giving them living ideas, you're giving them the treasure chest for them to pull out the treasure that's in it. So it went really well. The written narrations went really well. I can say that they needed help with providing context for the written narrations. But that is something that I'm always talking to them about. I'm always talking to them about providing context. So for instance, tonight, my mother calls. She says she wants to pick the kids up because she wants to, take them to dinner, and she's going to take them shopping. So I'm in the living room. They're in the kitchen. I hear Michael say, Grandma, can you, when you pick us up, can you drop us off at the corn maze? And that was it. My mother was like, what? So I yell into the kitchen, hey, Michael, you need to give context to that statement. So then he's like, oh, Grandma, tonight is youth group, and youth group is going to the corn maze. We have to be there at 7 o'clock. Since you're picking us up at 5 and we're going to be hanging out with you, then when you're finished, can you drop us off at the corn maze? Context. I had to prompt them for context for the written narration, the oral narration, the dictation, and the art project. So Gabriel, for his oral narration, he read to us a section out of Huckleberry Finn, where Huck is talking about how awful it was to have to wash his hands and eat at a table and put on clothes and all that, because he's living with, I think her name is Miss Taylor. I could be completely wrong about her name. And Gabriel talked about that and how sometimes he feels that way when he just doesn't want to do stuff. He just wants to hang out. So that was cute. For art, Michael did this art project. We did an art project on charcoal. So these are his 3. This is Johann Sebastian Bach. This is Robert Louis Stevenson, the poet. And this is Rembrandt. These are the three masters that we're studying. This is the painting that Rembrandt has done. Bach has an orchestra. Robert Louis Stevenson has written a poem that they are now singing. And this is all of the people, the white spots are their mouths open because they were so blown away by this masterpiece. So that is what we have done. That was our midterm project. I would love to hear from you guys. What do you do for midterm projects? What do they look like? How do you assess? And what changes have you found over time that you needed to make to midterm projects? So that's about it. I will see you guys next week. I've gotten a request to do a video on how I homeschool and take care of the rest of, life around here, which I will tell you. I'm going to do a video on that next week. So, all right, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.